The courtroom was silent as a tomb. It had been 4 days of frenetic testimony, packed courtrooms, Twitter fever, and wild guesswork by the public. But now it was down to this. The jury, 7 women, 5 men, walked back to their seats with faces that told nothing. No eye contact. No fidgeting in their seats. Just the burden of a choice that would shake a family and a fandom as one. Kody Brown sat at the defense table. Folded hands, a sheen of sweat on his forehead. His jaw clenched and unclenched slowly, methodically, like a man attempting to keep from shattering a crumbling mask. The foreperson stood. A slender woman in her 40s with sharp glasses and an unreadable face. "Madam Foreperson," said Judge Elena Hartley, her voice calm but firm. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" "We have, Your Honor." The room seemed to lean in. Robyn Brown clutched a tissue in her lap, shaking silently, while Christine, watching from a private room via live feed, gripped her chair's armrest. In the case of United States versus Kody Brown, on the charge of tax fraud, how do you find the defendant? Guilty. On the charge of making false federal documents for personal financial gain? Guilty. And just like that, it was finished. There was no gasp, no scream, just the gradual, national exhale of a nation that had watched this trial as if it were life as it aired on television. The courtroom, which had been filled with tension, now was like an empty space, bereft of all sound, all breath, all illusions. Kody started at nothing. He didn't cry. He didn't blink. He just looked straight ahead, immobile, as if his body hadn't yet registered the words. "The judge speaks." Judge Elena Hartley smoothed her robe and turned to the room. A highly respected judge, with more than 20 years of experience on the bench, she was known to be tough, but fair. "Mr. Brown," she began, "you entered into the public's eye as a man of faith, of family, of values. You were afforded a platform that few are given, and rather than using it responsibly, you used it as cover. You enriched yourself off your family. You peddled your privacy and sought that others respect it. You espoused transparency while secreting away millions. And when confronted, you did not admit it. You doubled down." The courtroom quietened with each sentence. Robyn cried aloud, now, unable to hold back her tears. A bailiff handed her a glass of water solicitously. "She didn't drink it, Mr. Brown," the judge went on. "The law does not flex for TV personalities. It does not concern itself with ratings. It does not bother with your followers, your merchandise, or your message. The law only sees one thing: truth." She stood silent for a moment, then pronounced the sentence. "You are hereby sentenced to 2 years in federal prison. Report to custody immediately. There is to be no parole, no book deals, no TV appearances, no podcast from prison." There was a silence after those words, not of shock, but seriousness. The type of quiet that falls at a funeral, or at the end of a failed aspiration. Kody blinked, the only outward sign that the sentence had struck home. 2 years, no loopholes, no celebrity prison. Nothing but cold metal bars and the harsh ring of responsibility. Family reactions. Robyn rested against the bench, nearly toppling over as the verdict rang in her head. For so long, she had defended Kody, through the media frenzy, the divorces, the social uproar. But this was something she couldn't spin, couldn't justify. Through her tears, she mouthed something toward him. "I'm sorry, or maybe I love you." But Kody didn't turn to look. His eyes were still locked on some invisible point in front of him. Like if he focused hard enough, he could undo the moment. In the back of the room, a girl in sunglasses, thought to be one of Kody's older daughters, stood up and left. Not in protest, not angry, just done. Outside the courthouse, reporters flocked, mics held out. Fans packed the sidewalk. Some applauded. Others wept. A few yelled something like "justice" or "free Kody," depending on which half of the story they'd bought into. On the internet, the hashtags lit up. #Kody guilty, #justice for the kids, #sister wives. Scandal, #Robyn knew behind the verdict. What made the sentence so effective wasn't the guilty verdict alone. It was what it represented. For more than a decade, sister wives had created a complicated, sometimes incendiary, but undoubtedly captivating portrait of a man attempting to head a plural family in a contemporary world. They had witnessed births, weddings, breakups, and breakdowns. Kody had been applauded and ridiculed, defended and cancelled, lionized and laughed at. But the courtroom stripped all of that away. No editing room, no producers, no camera-friendly lighting. Just facts. The jury had seen more than 120 exhibits. Falsified tax returns, property deeds, internal emails between Kody and his accountant, and depositions from his own ex-wives. Janelle's testimony in particular had stung. He told me in 2019 not to worry about taxes, she testified on the stand. He said, and I'm quoting, "They'll never come after us, we're untouchable." Those words, "we're untouchable," became the trial's unofficial motto. Repeated in headlines, discussed on Reddit, and etched into every viewer's memory. The final walk once sentencing was over. Kody was quietly escorted out by 2 U.S. Marshals. No cuffs in front of the cameras. Not because he was granted privilege, but because the judge had ordered all media to stay seated until he was gone. He strode tall, but more slowly than normal. Not like the bright-eyed, frequently condescending Kody enthusiasts were accustomed to. This was a deflated man. He didn't wave. He didn't say anything. Just a slow look over Robyn's shoulder. And then he disappeared. Off stage, some of the staff reported hearing Robyn scream after the door shut behind him. "He's not the only one in punishment," somebody overheard her say. "We all are." The Nation responds. Breaking news scrolled across all day on the news channels. TMZ, CNN, Fox, Entertainment Tonight. Everyone had an opinion. Entertainment Weekly. From reality star to real consequences. Kody Brown sentenced. BuzzFeed News. Robyn breaks down as Kody faces prison. Reddit. Thousands of posts, comments and hypotheses blew up, including debate on whether the other wives were hiding something. And just like that, silence when the cameras departed, when the doors shut, when the crowd thinned, all that remained was the truth. Kody Brown, who made a brand out of faith and family, was now inmate #920153FL in a federal prison. He had thought that cameras would guard him, that fame was armor. But he was mistaken. Because when the gavel comes down, it doesn't differentiate between trending and not. It's only interested in the truth. Secrets don't remain secrets forever, they say. In Kody Brown's situation, the truth wasn't hidden in a television cruise footage, or cued in some behind-the-scenes drama. It was in cold hard statistics, line upon line of paperwork. And those statistics didn't lie. It started with a land deal. In 2018, Sister Wives fans watched Kody enthusiastically discussing purchasing property in Flagstaff, Arizona. He talked about a Coyote Pass fantasy, a large, lovely parcel of land where each of his wives would have her own house, a family compound, a new beginning. What wasn't televised, however, was how those purchases were made. Authorities then found that rather than buying the property under a single transparent family trust, Kody organized the holdings through a mix of tiny LLCs, shell companies that on paper divided the properties between businesses. They had unusual sounding names. Some of them were registered in other states. One was even attached to a P.O. box in Nevada that no one had visited in a year. And buried in those company filings, his children's names. Yes, a number of Kody's teen children were unwittingly named as owners or co-signers on documents related to six-figure homes. Later, when asked, most of them indicated they had no idea their names were on there. No consent, no awareness. "I was 16 at the time," one daughter said. "I don't even remember signing anything. I definitely didn't get it." That was flag number 1. The accountant who stared at us with a nervous smile. The prosecution called in one of its most important witnesses, Wesley Grant, Kody's ex-accountant. Wesley was scrubbed and nervous and sweating in the fluorescent glare of the courtroom. He had the air of a high school math teacher about him. And perhaps that was the idea. Because when Wesley testified, he looked like he hadn't slept for months. "Mr. Grant," said the prosecutor, "can you inform the court what Mr. Brown told you to do with his sister wives and ancillary media earnings?" He said to keep things separated. Wesley said, wording it cautiously, he didn't want it all in one spot. He said it was keeping the wives safe, but it didn't ring true. The money wasn't being sent to them. It was being sent to shell companies. Wesley explained that over a span of 5 years, Kody channeled more than $1.8 million through 6 separate accounts, the majority under LLCs that were not reported to the IRS. The funds originated from show payments from TLC book royalties from Becoming Sister Wives online merch sales and speaking engagements, a YouTube channel monetized in Robyn's name. Initially I thought he was disorganized, Wesley testified, but then he began giving very specific directions about how to misplace invoices, or label things as consulting when it was obvious it was a personal expense. What types of expenses? The prosecutor queried. Oh, private school for his kids, a sauna in his house, and 2 additional trips to Hawaii. The courtroom gasped. Emails that told the real story, but the most incriminating evidence. The emails. The prosecution presented a series of 42 internal emails exchanged between Kody and Wesley. Brief, cryptic, some read with warning signals. One message read, "Let's space this out. Too many eyes on Robyn's name already. Use the Nevada LLC for the second transfer. That one's cleaner." Another said, "Christine's name is off the books now. Keep it that way. She's out. No more leaks." And perhaps the most haunting email of all, "They'll never audit us. We're reality TV gold. Nobody wants to bring down family values." The phrase reality TV gold became a headline everywhere, used in news stories, podcasts, and online debates. It showed not just deception but arrogance. Kody truly believed he was untouchable. The family's blind side one by one. Kody's former wives were asked about the finances. Christine, who had remarried, made her statement in video deposition. Kody took care of everything. The show checks were mailed to him, or to the business account. "We trusted him." Meri said the same. "I thought we were dividing things fairly. I had no reason to think something illegal was going on. But now, thinking back, yeah, a lot of it doesn't add up." Janelle was the only one who testified in person. Peaceful, truthful, hurt, times when he instructed me not to ask questions. He made me feel like I was being dramatic when I spoke about money. He'd say, "This is what leadership is." Janelle, and I believed him. The jury listened intently. Many nodded. Some were crying. This wasn't tax fraud. This was manipulation within a family dynamic. Public backlash and speculation outside of the courthouse. Protesters congregated. Some carried signs that stated "Justice for the kids" or "Fraud is not family." Others stood with Kody, accusing cancel culture and decrying it as a witch hunt. Social media was divided equally. Some came to Kody's defense, saying reality stars were easy targets. Others called for his accountability and said he used his family to gain fame and fortune. TikTok and YouTube overflowed with responses. Legal analysts, former supporters, even parody makers, offering opinions. "This has nothing to do with polygamy," one lawyer declared on a live stream. "This is about an individual using a family photo as a financial disguise." Closing the books in court, the IRS agent presented the figures with ruthless accuracy. $1.8 million in undisclosed income, $437,000 in unpaid property taxes, $320,000 spent under miscellaneous write-offs, at least 3 minor children unwittingly listed as business stakeholders. That final tidbit shocked the judge. "You didn't merely violate the law," she would go on to say in sentencing. "You endangered your children's future to protect your own wealth." The defense attempted to assert that Kody was misguided, not evil, that he was attempting to protect his family, that he didn't realize the intricacies of tax law. But the evidence painted a different picture. This wasn't negligence. This was manipulation. The backstory for what's to follow. At the end of this episode, it was obvious the facade of an intact, morally centered family man had crumbled. What audience members used to find quirky or complex was now shown to be calculated manipulation, legal, monetary, emotional. And the kicker? Kody still hadn't uttered a single word in court. No witness stand testimony. No in-court statement. Not even an apology. Only silence. Whether it was pride, strategy, or shock, no one knew. But the absence of his voice spoke volumes. Because when the paper trail finally spoke, it screamed. They say secrets don't stay hidden forever. In Kody Brown's case, the truth wasn't hidden in a camera crew's footage, or whispered in some behind-the-scenes drama. It was in cold, hard numbers. Line after line of paperwork. And those numbers didn't lie. It began with a land transaction. In 2018, Sister Wives viewers watched as Kody was eagerly discussing the purchase of land in Flagstaff, Arizona. He described a Coyote Pass vision, a large, lovely property on which every wife would have a home of her own, a family compound, a new beginning. What wasn't televised, though, was how those land acquisitions were carried out. Agents discovered later that rather than buying the property under one open, unified family trust, Kody established a system of tiny LLCs, fake companies that on paper divided up the properties between businesses. A few of the businesses had unusual names. Some were set up in other states. One was even linked to a P.O. box in Nevada, where no one had made a pickup in more than a year. And hidden in those business documents, the names of his children. Yes, several of Kody's teenage children had unknowingly been listed as owners or co-signers on documents involving six-figure properties. When asked later, the majority of them claimed they didn't know their names were being used. No consent, no awareness. I was 16 years old at the time, said one daughter. I don't even remember signing it. I definitely didn't realize it. That was the first red flag. The accountant with a nervous smile. The prosecution called in one of their star witnesses, Wesley Grant, Kody's ex-accountant. Wesley was neatly dressed, fidgety, and perspiring under the glare of the courtroom lights. He resembled a high school math teacher more than someone entangled in federal wrongdoing. And perhaps that was the idea, because when Wesley testified, he appeared to have not slept for weeks. Mr. Grant, the prosecutor requested, can you inform the court what Mr. Brown told you to do with his income from Sister Wives and similar media business? He said to me to keep them apart, Wesley said warily. He didn't want it all in one location. He said it was about keeping the wives safe, but it didn't add up. The money wasn't going to them. It was going to shell companies. Wesley explained how, in the course of 5 years, Kody poured more than $1.8 million into 6 various accounts, the majority of which under LLCs that the IRS was not aware of. The funds were derived from show payments from TLC book royalties from Becoming Sister Wives online merch sales and speaking fees. A YouTube channel monetized under Robyn's name. At first I thought he was just being disorderly, Wesley said. But then he began issuing specific directives on how to lose invoices, or label things as consulting that were obviously personal expenses. What kind of expenses? The prosecutor inquired. Well, private school tuition, a sauna at home, and 2 different trips to Hawaii. The courtroom gasped. Emails that told the real story. But the most incriminating evidence, the emails. The prosecution presented a set of 42 internal emails between Wesley and Kody, some brief, some cryptic, others replete with red flags. In one, Kody wrote, "Let's break this up. Too many eyes on Robyn's name already. Use the Nevada LLC for the second transfer. That one's cleaner." In another, "Christine's name is off the books now. Keep it that way. She's out, no more leaks." And perhaps the most haunting email of all. "They'll never audit us. We're reality TV gold. Nobody wants to bring down family values." The phrase reality TV gold became a headline everywhere, used in news stories, podcasts, and online debates. It showed not just deception, but arrogance. Kody truly believed he was untouchable. The family's blind side one by one. Kody's former wives were asked about the finances. Christine, who is remarried, testified by video deposition. Kody took care of everything. The show checks were written to him, or the business account. We trusted him. Meri testified the same way. I thought we were dividing things evenly. I never suspected something illegal was going on. But now in hindsight, yeah, a lot of things don't make sense. Janelle testified alone, calmly, truthfully, hurt. Some of the times he told me not to question things. He made me feel like I was being too much when I mentioned money. He'd say, "This is what leadership is, Janelle." And I did believe him. The jury listened intently. Many nodded. Some wiped away tears. This wasn't merely tax fraud. It was manipulation in a family dynamic. Public backlash and speculation. Outside the courthouse, demonstrators had assembled. Some carried signs that said "Justice for the kids" or "Fraud is not family." Others came to support Kody, accusing cancel culture and labeling it a witch hunt. Social media was divided in two. Some defended Kody, stating reality stars were easy targets. Others called for accountability and accused him of using his family to gain fame and fortune.
TikTok and YouTube swarmed with response. Legal commentators, one-time enthusiasts, even parody producers opining. "This has nothing to do with polygamy," stated one lawyer on a live broadcast. "This is all about someone employing a family picture as camouflage for money." Closing the books in court, the IRS agent rolled out the figures with cold calculation. $1.8 million in off-the-books earnings, $437,000 in delinquent property taxes, $320,000. Used under miscellaneous write-offs. At least 3 small children unwittingly identified as business owners. That little revelation stunned the judge. "You didn't only violate the law," she'd later tell him during sentencing. "You jeopardized your children's future to protect your own fortune." The defense attempted to plead that Kody was misguided, not evil. That he was attempting to look out for his family. That he did not appreciate the intricacies of tax law. But the facts did not support this. This wasn't negligence. This was control. The setup for what's to come. By the conclusion of this session, it was evident the facade of a morally principled, united family man had been broken. What audiences had previously observed as quirky or complex was made apparent as calculated manipulation, legal, monetary, emotional. And the largest surprise, Kody still hadn't uttered a single word in court. No statement, no testimony, not even an apology. Only silence. Whether pride, strategy, or shock, no one is certain. But his silence told it all. For when the paper trail finally spoke up, it screamed. You could sense the electricity humming in the air as the jury entered the courtroom. Day 4 of the trial. Outside, people buzzed. Inside, it was silent. Even the hum of the overhead lights was too loud. Kody Brown sat immobile, his hands clasped, his eyes bloodshot from a sleepless night. He'd spent 4 days seeing his world come apart. Property records, bank transactions, secret earnings, family treachery, and now, the only thing between him and a jail cell were 12 strangers clutching a verdict envelope. The final verdict. Judge Elena Hartley seated herself. "Members of the jury," she began, "have you reached a unanimous decision?" The foreperson, a calm woman in a blue blazer, rose. "Yes, Your Honor, we have." You could have heard a pin drop. In the case of the United States versus Kody Brown, she tore open the envelope. "On the charge of tax fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of forging federal property documents, guilty. On the charge of wire fraud involving hidden income accounts, guilty." There was no shout, no gasp, just the collective intake of a nation's breath, and the slow exhale. Kody didn't stir. He sat straight ahead, blinking slowly.
No expression, no reaction, almost as if he hadn't heard them at all, or perhaps he had, and just couldn't make sense of it. In the next row, Robyn Brown started crying, not the quiet kind, full-body sobs. She clutched a tissue like it was the one thing holding her in the room. There were no other wives. Christine had declined comment. Janelle had flown out of town after testifying. Meri, silent as always. The judge speaks. Judge Hartley, revered throughout Arizona for her measured but stern tone, pushed up her glasses and spoke to the room. And to Kody specifically. "Mr. Brown, this court has seen mountains of evidence. This jury has carefully listened. And your own family, the very ones who rode your fame to power, have testified about how you betrayed their trust." She shot a look at Robyn, who had ceased crying but still appeared ravaged. "More than a decade ago, you were presented with a platform, not only to speak about your beliefs, but to demonstrate to the world what a contemporary, faithful, multifaceted family could look like. And what did you do with that platform? You used it as cover. You employed your wives, your children, your religion, and indeed your congregation, to build a shield. But beneath the sermons and the smiles, was a pattern of deceit, of greed, and of manipulation." The sentence, she paused. "Allow the silence to grow. For the offenses of tax fraud, wire fraud, and making false federal documents, the court hereby sentences you, Kody Brown, to 2 years in federal prison. Serve this sentence without parole. You are not allowed to profit off this conviction. No book contracts, no interviews, no podcast taping in prison. You are to report to federal custody at once." The gavel fell with a sharp, decisive crack. Just like that, the chapter closed. Reactions from the gallery. Robyn made a noise, half gasp, half sob, and buried her face in her hands. A bailiff moved toward her,
solicitously holding out a chair and a glass of water. She shook her head. Reporters by the opposite aisle wrote furiously. Nobody had the courage to move. Outside, hundreds of fans and demonstrators waited for word. Some waved signs reading "#free Kody," others calling for justice for the family members whom he allegedly used as human pawns. Inside, Kody slowly rose. He glanced around the room once, lingering for an instant on an empty row where Janelle had once been, then turned to the judge. He opened his mouth, and for the first time in 4 days he spoke, barely above a whisper. "I didn't think it would end like this." The walk of silence to you. Marshals moved forward. One took Kody by the arm, with a gentle, firm touch. He didn't resist. No cuffs, not yet. Not until they got to the hallway, out of sight of the cameras. Kody emerged slowly, shoulders slumped, the assertive stance of his TV career forgotten. There was no finery, no farewells, only the slam of one last set of doors behind him. Robyn emerged minutes later, flanked by security guards from the courthouse. Her mascara was smudged, face impassive. She had no words for the press. When questioned by one of the photographers as to whether she still stood by her husband, she merely grumbled, "I stood by him too long." The public phrase. When the sentence landed in national news, responses were explosive. Some devoted fans were shocked, others were content, most were torn. On TikTok, content creators flooded timelines with videos captioned, "He thought the cameras made him untouchable. 2 years for a lifetime of lies." Robyn's face says everything. Reddit threads arose by the thousands. Theories, arguments, speculation. Was the sentence too lenient? Were the other wives in on it? Would TLC broadcast a special? The Brown family legacy, once messy but admired, was now sullied, perhaps forever. Christine breaks. Her silence that evening. Christine shared one picture on Instagram. It was a serene shot of a forest path at dawn. The message read, "Sometimes truth breaks you before it frees you. I hope we all heal." She never mentioned Kody. She didn't need to. Thousands of comments flooded in, the majority being supportive. Past fans apologized for even questioning her choice to leave. Others pleaded with her to share more. A minority, of course, still called her unfaithful. But Christine said nothing further. She had already spoken volumes when she walked away all those years ago. Robyn's isolation over the subsequent weeks. Robyn Brown was said to have essentially retired from public life. Her co-owned businesses shut down. Her social media profiles fell silent. A Flagstaff neighbor informed a local newspaper. "She doesn't come out much. She walks the dog at night. She looks tired." Sources within the family said that Robyn was thinking of going back to Utah. For family, not Kody. Nothing had been decided. One friend of the family spoke anonymously. "She feels like she lost everything. Not just her husband, but the lie she built her life around." Kody in custody. Kody was moved to FPC Tucson, a federal minimum security prison. Reports indicate that he was put in a special unit for nonviolent criminals. No special treatment, no private room, no access to the internet. He asked to work in the library. He also started writing a handwritten memoir entitled tentatively, "Husband, Father, Fallon." A source within the prison said Kody spends most days reading and writing alone. He still believes that the world will forgive him. He's already working on his comeback. The legacy left behind. And so the man who had proudly walked tall once as a husband to 4 women, father to 18 children, and the lead of a revolutionary television show, now stood for something else altogether: the cost of pride, the burden of the unspoken, and the unshakable power of those who had finally decided to speak. The cameras might have ceased their rolling, but the story was only just beginning. The courtroom had cleared. The headlines had reached their height. The cameras were dark. But for the Brown family, the story was only just beginning. Because when someone like Kody Brown falls, a man who built a public empire on family, religion, and fame, the fall doesn't just end in a jail sentence. It resonates through each home he abandoned, through each child who saw it happen, and through all the women who once addressed him as husband.
Oh. Family redefined. Over the months since Kody's sentencing, his once swirling, dysfunctional family drifted farther apart. Janelle left Flagstaff altogether, moving to Idaho near some of her grown children. She declined interviews with the press. but occasionally shared quiet, serene moments on social media. A campfire, a novel by the lake. Her dog snuggled up against her. One caption read simply, "Peace is expensive, but worth it." Christine, the initial wife who exited the plural marriage, seemed to flourish even further in the public eye. She made a few return appearances on YouTube, releasing family vlogs with her daughters, but never speaking specifically of Kody. "I'm not looking back," she declared in one video. "We survived the fall. Now we build forward." Her fans didn't just encourage her, they reveled in her. To some, she was an icon of freedom and empowerment, a woman who escaped before the boat sank. Meri, always an enigma, shared a lone post to her Instagram story weeks post-sentencing.